Boker Tov, Chodesh Tov. We're in Chodesh Elul, and we're holding on Daf Chaf Hey Amud Bet. We are in 25b3 in the art school in Masechet Sanhedrin and Talmud Bavli. We're dealing primarily right now with those witnesses who are considered pasul. They're disqualified as being witnesses for various reasons, mostly because of their stealing. So the Mishnah had a list. And in last week's Gemara, we already started a additional list that the rabbis added later on to the list. So more stuff that were mentioned in the Mishnah. The Tana, we're holding on 25b3. Tana was Tana Baitam, Od Hasifu Aleim Haroim Hagaboim V'Mochsin. They also added on herders, the article translates, like shepherds, those who take care of animals. Tax collectors, and Hamochsin are customs collectors. So what's the difference in Gaboin and Hamochsin? The way Rashi and Ramah explain is that the Gaboin is a tax collector, basically based on how many people are in the city, they have to collect tax. And the Mochsin is those who are at the border, or it's a sales tax or something like that, customs tax, the sales tax. The way the Beit Yosef and the Hoshim Mishpat, what he understands the difference is Gaboyin are those who the king pays a salary to go and collect taxes, whereas Mochsin are those who pay the king for the privilege to tax people, and they keep whatever they tax. They pay the king whatever amount, and the king allows them to now take taxes and keep the taxes for themselves. So different ways to understand what this Gaboin and what this Muhsin is. And all these people are possible from being witnesses. This Braita wants to add on. Now the Gemara says, Ro'im, why originally they let, and later on the rabbi said they're pasul. Me'ikara savar akre be'almahu, kiva dechazu deka mechavne, b'shtodu dechatchila, gazu behu rabbanan. Because shepherds that have sheep or have other animals, animals have to eat, right? Sometimes they eat and they go into someone else's field to eat, and they're stealing. So the rabbi said, that when that happens, that's an accident. It doesn't happen so often. It's accidental, never really happens. So the people are kosher to be eaten. They're not stealing. But when they saw that they're actually doing it on purpose, they're actually sending it there to eat on purpose, and they're actually stealing. Therefore, the Rabbanan made it asur for them, pasul. They made them pasul for edut because they're gazlanim, they're stealing. And Gemara continues, Hagaboyin v'amochsin me'ikar savar. My the kitzlahu koshakle originally thought these tax collectors, custom officials, what they are only taking what they're supposed to. Even the chazu, the kaf shakle yetera paslinhu. When the rabbi saw that they are what's it called, taking more than they're supposed to, this became a problem. They saw that they're stealing. According to the Geonim, this is the way the Ramah Paskins, is that they realized that these tax collectors were taking nothing from the rich and taking everything from the poor, which is problematic. So they said they're stealers. We can't trust them. Amar Rava. Now we said shepherds, those who take care of sheep, who take care of animals. So the Gemara wants to add Amar Rava. Rava says, Ra'esha Amru, this shepherd, this person who takes care of animals, Echad ro'eh behema daka, be'echad ro'eh behema gasa. Makes no difference if this person is taking care of large animals or if he's taking care of small animals. There's a difference between small animals and large animals. Large animals are like your cow and your ox. Small animals like your sheep and your lamb. The difference is small animals are able to to move faster, get away, and go places that they shouldn't be able to go. Whereas larger animals like cows and oxen, they don't really go too far from their farm. So the Gemara says, when we Amar Rava, did Rava really say this? That both the ones who take care of large animals or small animals, both are apostle because they're stealers. Amar Rava, Ro'eh behema daka b'Eretz Yisrael, pesulin b'chutz la'aretz keshirin. Those who watch small animals, or shepherds for small animals, in Eretz Yisrael, they're apostle. Why? Because small animals get away and they take from other people's grass and other people's seeds. They just get into other people's fields. In Eretz Yisrael, you're really not supposed to even raise small animals because it's supposed to be people supposed to be living there. And small animals, they need a lot of places to run around and eat in more places. So only in like fields, where it's just fields, maybe you can raise them there. But in Chutz La'aretz, where there's more space, so those who raise small animals are kosher to be Edom. Ro'eh behema ga'asa, afil b'Eretz Yisrael keshirin. And Rava said that if you're raising large animals, even in Eretz Yisrael, they would be kosher Edom, kosher witnesses. So how can he say above that both shepherds for large animals and small animals are possible Edom? Here he's saying those shepherds who are for large animals, even Eretz Yisrael, they're going to be kosher. Gemara says, yeah, that's the qualification. Now, who the Megidalim Itmar? When they said this, that the shepherds of large animals in Eretz Yisrael would be a kosher Edom, that if they're growing, they're owning and growing their oxen and cows on a farm, in a stable, in a barn, because then the cows are not going to get out. But if the guy stam has a house and he has 2 cows on the side, then that's going to be problematic because those cows are going to go and eat in other people's fields. It's only if he's raising them in a barn, in the farm, where he's able to control them and they're not going to run away, then he would be a kosher aid. Hachinami mistabra. It also seems likely from the Mishnah. We had a Mishnah. We started this parak midikani, when it says nemanalai shloisha roi voker. The Mishnah said the Mishnah said that a person agrees, says, "Oh, I accept these 3 people, 3 shepherds to be a kosher." Now we learned it as being kosher dayanim, judges. Here the Gemara says maybe my lav le'edut. Here we see that it's possible to take them as edim because really they're possible, but he's accepting them as kosher edim. So my lav le'edut. The Gemara says lo, no. When it said there, accepting these 3 shepherds, it didn't say it for edim. It said it for judges. Lo ledina, for judges. Daikanami, as returning to 25 before. Daikanami, diktani shloisha roi voker, le'edut shlosha lamali. It must be for judges and not for witnesses. Why? Because I don't need three witnesses. 2 witnesses is enough. So if it says 3, it must be I need it for the 3 judges. Tani shloisha roi voker, le'edut shlosha lamali. If it's for witnesses, why would it need 3? So what's the big deal if they're going to be judges? My shlosharo evakar, call kitlata the law gamre dina nami. Any person who doesn't know halacha and you take them to be judges, why does the Mishnah have to pick on shepherds when talking about judges? Even these people who are not living amongst people, shepherds that live on farms, they're all alone, far away from everyone else. So maybe they shouldn't be qualified at all. No, according to the Mishnah, if you chose these 3 shepherds, even though they are from far away, they really don't know how business transactions or whatever, how society works. According to the Rabbanan, you cannot go back and decide you don't want them anymore. That's the chidush of the Mishnah. Amar Yehuda, Stam ro'eh pasul, Stam gabay kasher. A stam ro'eh, a stam shepherd, a regular shepherd. You don't know Is he kosher? Is he not? You don't have any indication. He becomes pasul ed. You're not allowed to take him as a witness. But a stam gabai kasher, a stam tax collector, is going to be considered kosher witness. What about custom officials? Muhsin doesn't machloket. Which way you go? According to, I believe, the Bet Yosef says the muhsin is going to be a possible aid from the beginning. And there are those who argue and say, no, the custom official is going to be kosher aid until you know otherwise. Now, why is tax collectors, a stam tax collector, you don't know his status, kosher, not kosher, we say he's kosher? Because we're going to find out that some tax collectors were very, very honest people. So let's take a look at the story. Havua de Rab Zera, the father of Rab Zera, of Gabayuta Tilasar Shenin. He worked as a tax collector for 13 years. Here's an example. Whenever the head of the chief of the river would come, meaning the governor would come to the city, so what would he do? Now the governor comes. The governor is going to see a lot of people on the street. He's going to say, you have a lot of people. You have a lot of business. You have to give me more taxes. So what did Rav Zera's father do? What did he do? He would go to the rabbis, and Amrlo would say to the rabbis, Lech ami bo b'chadarecha. There's a pasuk in Yeshaya. The pasuk continues. You read on the side of the Gemara on Torah of Shalom. Lech ami bo b'chadarecha. Go, my nation, go into your rooms. Usgor dilatecha. Close your doors. Va'adecha achi kimat rega ad ya'avor za'am. Pasuk Yeshaya says, go into your room, lock your door until the anger subsides, and then come out. Right? This pasuk became very famous during Corona. All the rabbis were using it to tell us to go into isolation, and to close the door. This was the pasuk that they were using. So he was telling the rabbis, get off the streets, go into your rooms. This way the governor won't see more people on the street. He won't charge a higher tax. When he saw the townspeople, he would tell them, the head of the city, the governor, is coming to town. He's going to kill the father in front of the son, and the son in front of the father. He was basically telling them, he was trying to hint to them, go high. The government doesn't see you, so you don't have to pay such a big tax. He didn't want to say it straight up, that maybe there's somebody's going to go and tell the governor, oh, you know what the tax collector said? The tax collector said that we should go high. So he said it in a remez, in a hint, and I was thinking about the hint. The hint sounds kind of weird, and they're going to come and tell him, oh, you said you're going to kill us. But the truth is, that's the way governors were. That's the way kings were. You have to be very scared of them. They could have literally just chopped off someone's head. No jury, no court, no nothing, right? That's the way it was. So he was telling them, get out of the streets. The governor is here. You got to be a little scared. And now on 26A1, umi ganzu kule ama, and everyone would go into hiding. Ki ata amar, when the chief district would arrive, he would say, give me X amount of money. And Ramzer's father would say, Mimani boy, where am I going to get it for you? There's nobody here. So this is the way you see he was a good tax collector. He was trying to help the people not pay a huge tax. When Ramzer's father was dying, he told the people that were there, take the 13 of money that I have wrapped in my handkerchief and return to so-and-so, to a certain person. I took from him taxes, but in the end, I didn't end up needing it. So I want to return it to him. So the story goes, the way the Adramo explains is that his father had to give taxes to the governor. He came and he was short. He was short some money. So the governor said, go and get it and bring it back. And he went to this last guy he didn't charge taxes from and said, I need you to give him the money. So he gave him the money. And now he goes back to the governor. So either the governor's not there, he went away on a business trip or whatever, or the governor said, listen, you already gave it to me, I don't need it anymore. It's fine, whatever. and just emochel it. So now he has the money and he's dying, so he wants to give it back. So he's making sure that they're able to give it back to who it belongs to. So from here we see that there were many nice gaboim, that the tax collectors that were honest. Therefore, you would say that tax collectors that are honest are and a stam tax collector is honest. The Gemara says, and he's kosher. He'll be a kosher witness. Okay. Amar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon said, so we're quoting the Mishnah. The Mishnah said they used to call them the gatherers of Shemitah, the gatherers of the Shemitah produce. And then they called them the sellers of Shemitah produce. Once the oppressors increased, they started calling them the sellers of Shemitah. First of all, we have to know a little bit about Shemitah. So Shemitah is the 7th year produce. Torah says you can't work the land. Not only can't you work the land, you can't eat the fruits if there are no more fruits in the field. Basically, if the animals or other people cannot come and just take something to eat from the field, you also, if you have it in your house, you can no longer eat it. You have to do what's called zman beer. You have to do beer. You have to get rid of it. You have to burn it or whatever it is to dispose of it. You can't keep it at home anymore. Eat produce, you're not supposed to do business with it. The Shemitah, it's holy. All right, those are the main background of Shemitah. Now, what does this mean when the Mishnah says they were first called gatherers of Shemitah and then they were called sellers of Shemitah? My Ka'amar. What is this meaning? What is Rav Shimon saying? So I'm here, this is what Rav Shimon is saying. Betchila hayu omrin osvei shivi'it kishirin sochirin pesulin. First they said, those that gather Shemitah produce, they're kosher edim. Those who sell are possible edim. Mishirabu mamtziyim ma'ot la'aniyim, va'ozle aniyim, va'asvai luhu, umaitu, hazul omar echad v'zeh, v'echad zeh, pesulin. So there's no instead of gathering Shemitah. You can gather the fruit and you'll keep it at home and you'll eat it until the time you're allowed to eat it. So therefore they said those who gather shivreit are kosher. Those who sell are pasul. But then what happened? They realized that these people that were gathering, they weren't just gathering. They were hiring 4 people to gather. And they were gathering so much, and then they end up selling them. When they realized this, they said, the one who gathers and the one who sells are both pasul as witnesses because they're stealing. Now, Kashu ba b'nei Rachava. B'nei Rachava had a question to this explanation. Because the Mishnah says, once the oppressors increased, tax collectors increased, then they called them Sochre Shevi, the sellers of Shevi. That doesn't make sense because the way that Rabbi Yehuda's explained it, it should have said that when the sellers increased, that's when they asked the possible both of them. So Ayla, this is the story. Originally, they said those who gather and those who sell are both possible because they're probably gathering to sell. Therefore, the gatherer and the seller are both possible. Once the tax collectors increased, and what were these taxes? Arnona. Arnona was a produce tax. So the king decided everyone has to give them a certain amount of produce that they're growing has to go to the king. So because of this Arnona tax, Rabbi Yanai would tell the people, go and work your land and plant in order to pay the Arnona on Shemitah year. Then they said that those who sell are usher. Those who gather are kosher edim because they're not gathering for themselves, but rather they're gathering to pay the tax. Now, the simplest way to understand this is, for First of all, Shemitah is Doraita, right? It should be Doraita, at least. Torah says about it. So how can they just do it to pay a tax? Must be that if you didn't pay the tax, it would end up being that they would try to kill you, maybe. It would be kuach nefesh. So it Tosfot wants to learn. Rashi wants to say that it was in the time there was no Beit HaMikdash, so Shemitah is Dirabanan. And since it's Dirabanan, if you're going to lose money, you're allowed to do it. That's really the machloket today. I mean, there's many more shitot, many more opinions about Ish Shemitah today, Deraita or Derabanan in Eretz Yisrael. And I think we go mostly that it's Deraita. Most poskim say it's Deraita. But that's why the easiest way to learn this Gemara is like the Tosfot is that it is Doraita, but if you didn't pay the tax, you can end up being killed. And you don't have to give over your life to keep Shemitah. Therefore, you're allowed to go and plant and harvest your stuff and gather it. Therefore, those who were collecting were no longer considered pasul edim. They were considered kosher edim because they were collecting to pay their arnona tax and not be killed. Now, the Gemara is going to bring a story. Rabbi Hiya bar Zar Nokai Rabbi Shimon ben Yehotzadak Abu Kazlei Abir Shana ba'Asya. They were Rabbi Hiya and Rabbi Shimon were on their way to go make calculations about adding a month to the year to make it Rosh Hashanah, and they're going to the city of Asya. Asya was a city in Chutz La'aretz, outside in Babel, I assume, outside of Eretz Yisrael. We said that you could only add to the year in Eretz Yisrael. So most of the parsha, the easiest way to learn is the parsha that say that they weren't actually going to add the month at this point. They were just going to discuss it and deal with it, but not actually add on it yet. Anyway, Pagu be Reish Lakish, it's filled b'hadyahu. Reish Lakish sees them, and Reish Lakish says, I want to join you. Amar Ezil, Echzei, Hechi of the Ovda. I'm going to go and see how they do it. This way I'll become familiar with it. Hazayalu, Gavra, the Kol Karib. And they get there, and on their way, as they're going there, he sees a man plowing, and it's Shemitah year. Amar Lahain, he says to Reb Chia and to Reb Shimon, Kohen ve'choresh. That guy is a Kohen, and he's plowing on Shemitah year. Stop him. Tell him to stop. Amroi. They tell him, no, Yochel Omer, Agiston ani b'tocham. The guy can say, I'm an Agiston, which would mean that he's working, according to Rashi, means he's working for a guy. Working for a guy, which would be mutter, according to Rashi. According to others, you can basically say, I'm working to pay the guy the Arnona tax, working in his own field. Two, Chazel, who Gavra, the Hava, Pasa, Becharmei. They continue walking and they see a man pruning his vineyard. He's cutting the branches of the vineyard. Amr Lahen, so Shlakish tells the Reb Chia and Reb Shimon, Kohen v'zomer. He's a Kohen and he is pruning. For some reason, Rish Lakish is always picking on the Kahanim, saying it's the Kohen, the Kohen, the Kohen. So Amr Lahen, they say to him, Yochel Omer, La'akel bet tabad ani tzarich. The guy who's pruning, you can say, I'm not really pruning. I'm just cutting it because I need the branches to make another vessel, another keli out of the branches, like a basket or something. And I just need the branches from there. I'm not cutting it to prune the vineyard. So every time Rish Lakish is telling them that someone's doing something wrong, they come up with excuses that it's not wrong. Rish Lakish says, Amr Lahem, Halev Yodah, Halev Yodah, Imlu Ekel, Imla Akal Kalot. The heart knows whether they're doing it for the vessel or whether they're doing it to make Avirah. Hi, Amalu Beresha. Now the Gemara asks, which statement did Rish Lakish complain about first? The pruning of the vineyard or the guy plowing? Ilema, Hayukamaita Amalu Beresha. If the case of the first case was the one we mentioned that he was plowing came first, then he could have used that same excuse that he's trying to pay the Arnona tax. He could have used the same excuse for the pruning of the tree, that he's just working for the Arnona tax. Rather, the case really happened the other way around. Really, they saw the guy pruning, and they said, "Oh, he's just pruning to make a keli, make a basket." And then they saw the other case of plowing, and they said that he's doing it in order to pay the tax. Why did the Gemara flip it around? Because when you're plowing, there's really no two ways about it. You are plowing, and that's problematic. So now the Gemara says, "My shna kohen." Why is he picking on the kohen? The Gemara says, "Mishum chashidei ashveit." Kohanim were choshed that they did not keep shmita. Kohanim didn't keep shmita. Everyone kept shmita. Kohanim didn't. The Rambam explains why this is, and he says that the way the Rambam explains is that the Kohanim said, we can eat truma, no one else can eat truma, right? So when there's something that no one else can do, we can. So they said the same thing with Shemitah. No one else can work the field. We're Kohanim, we could, because whatever is awesome for everyone else is mutter for us. We can eat truma, no one else can. They can't work, we can work the field. And therefore, the Kohanim were choshed ad shvi'it. I'm bringing proof. The Tanya, Torah and Brayta. The ad truma shenefal leme'at le'in shel shvi'it ta'aleh. If, right, okay, this is a little bit taruvot about mixtures. Usually we say something is batal b'shisha, right? If a drop of milk fell into a pot, there's 60 times more meat, the milk is nullified and the whole pot is kosher. This everybody knows. Now, truma, on the other hand, is not batal in 60. Truma is batal in 100. What this means? Let's imagine you have 100 apples, regular apples, and one truma apple fell inside. The whole thing is mutar because you have 100 to 1. You have 100 to 1, the whole thing is mutar. Now you can't eat one of them. One of them you have to give to the kohen, even though it might not be the one that's actually truma. You still give one to the kohen. If there were 99 apples and one apple fell inside, the whole mixture becomes truma. Everything has to be given to the kohen. You can't keep any of it. That's the halacha of batel, of nullification, when it comes to teruma. So here the Gemara says the case is there's a whole pot of shvi'it, a whole pot of truma apples, 100 of them, and one not truma apples, a shmita apple, 100 shmita apples in the pot, and now one truma apple falls inside. So the truma apple is batel. It's inside there. Becomes batel. Everything remains shmita. You give one to the kohen as his truma, even though it might not be the one that fell inside. You give him one, and the rest of it you can eat for yourself. Now, what happens pachot miken? If it's less than 100, let's say there were 99 apples, and one fell inside, one truma fell inside. So now the whole mixture is considered truma. Yid kevu. At this point, you have to let the whole thing rot. You cannot give it to the kohen. Like Gemara says, and we ask, Amay yirkevu? The kohen b'dmei truma chutz b'dmei otaseh. Why don't you sell it at the truma price, except for that one piece that fell in? The rest of it you can sell it. Now, how can you sell shmita, right? You can't sell shmita. You can't sell shmita to make business, but you can sell shmita and then use that money to buy more shmita food, to get more, to consume food, and you'll use it with the kedusha of shmita. Anyway, why can't you give it to the kohen? It's all truma. Give it to him, sell it to him, whatever. They cannot be trusted with shvi'it produce because they're going to say, everyone else can't eat truma, we can. The same thing. Everyone else can't eat this produce after the Zman beer, but we could eat after the Zman beer because we're Kahanim. Therefore, Kahanim are choshid, are suspected of not keeping Shemitah. That's why Rish Lakish kept accusing the Kohanim. Amru. Now, Rechia Bar Znokei and Rishon ben Yehoyat Tzedek said of Rish Lakish, you're talking about Rish Lakish. They said, Haradadahu Dayan. He is very argumentative. These guys always looking for problems. He Matul Hatam, when they arrived in Asya to do the deliberations, they climbed the second floor, right, to the attic, and then they removed the ladder from them, not letting Rish Lakish come up. So the guy's a problem guy. He's always making problems. He's finding issues with everybody. We don't want him to join. Now, what does he do? He comes to the Yohanan. Amalei says, Yochanan, I have a question for you. People who are suspected of not keeping Shemitah, are they allowed to add on a month to the year? Are they allowed to be the ones who deliberate about making an Ibur Shana? He's saying that Rechia and Reb Shimon, since they didn't tell people to stop being Machalel Shemitah, that they're considered as if themselves were not keeping Shemitah. So Hada Amar, then he said to himself, when Shakish talking in front of Yochanan, but he's talking to himself, he says, Lo Kasha. No, I can understand how they're acceptable. The Hava Ashisharu Ibakar, or Rabbanan Achshevanehu Samuch. We had a case the Gemara brought that once the rabbis heard the shepherds speaking about the ground, about the wheat, about the this, about the that, and the rabbis took what they said into account, and they added on. So you see, you can take shepherds, Amiaretz, and you can take what they're saying to make Yibur Shana. So these are Shimon and Rechia, they're not worse than the Amiaretz. Therefore, yeah, I understand how they can add on to the year. Then he said, Loidami, no, not comparable. Hatam hadar imnu rabbanam be'ibru lehoshata. Achak kasher shaimu. He said, no, the case is not the same. Because the rabbis overheard the shepherds, and then the rabbis decided to listen to them, and they went with that. But here, the rabbis themselves are balei avera. The kasher shaim enu min. And when you have a group of Rishaim, he's calling them Rishaim, evil people, they're not part of the minyan. You can't count them at all. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, at this point, Rabbi Yochanan said, Da'aka. This is distressful. You got to stop. Already too much. It's already too much. Kiatu the Kamid Rabbi Yochanan Amrulei. Now, Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon come in front of Rabbi Yochanan, and they say, thank you for telling him to stop when he called us a Sha'im. But why, when he called us shepherds, you didn't tell him to stop? You didn't tell him anything when he called the shepherds. If he would have called you shepherds of small flocks that they steal from other people, what could have I said to him? What could I have told him? Rabbi Yochanan is pretty much telling them, Rish Lakish had a point. He was telling them someone's being Mechalel Shemitah. You didn't do anything about it. You just came up with excuses. So, you have here those who are being down the Kazakut, and you have on the other side who are not being down the Kazakut. And Rabbi Yochanan seems to be going both ways. At one point he's telling Rish Lakish enough. At the other point he's telling them, you shouldn't have been so lenient. Right? Rish Lakish had a point. Now, the Gemara wants to know where this Kesher Risha'im is coming from. That if you have a group of Risha'im, you don't listen to them. Where is it all coming from? My Kesher Risha'im. Kesher Risha'im, this is a story of Shebna. Who is Shebna? Shebna lived during the time of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Shebna, according to most Mefarshim, was a Kohen Gadol. He was definitely a big Talmid Chacham. He was a big Rosh Yeshiva. He had more students than Chizkiyahu HaMelech had, as the Gemara says. Shevna Havad Darish B'Tasari B'Ftah. He had 130,000 students. Chizkiyahu Havad Darish B'Hadsar B'Ftah. He only had 110,000 students. So Shevna had 20,000 more students than Chizkiyahu. Now, Kiata Sanhedrin V'Tzara led Yerushalayim. Sanhedrin came, the king of Assyria came, and he wanted to take over Yerushalayim. He already exiled the northern kingdom, Bnei Israel. He also conquered a few cities in Judah, and now he wants to take over Yerushalayim. Katav Shevna Pitka Sheda B'Gira. Shevna wrote a note and shot it over by an arrow outside the city walls to Sanhedrin. And he wrote, Shevna v'si'ato hishlimu. Shevna and his group agreed to Sanhedrin to give up Yerushalayim to Sanhedrin. Chizkiah v'si'ato lo hishlimu. But Chizkiah and his group are not agreeing to give up. Shenemar, here it says, Ki nehadisha'im yidrechun keshet konenu itam al yeter. Behold, the wicked bend the bow. They ready their arrow on the string. Now the story continues. Chizkiah was scared. Omar, he said, Dilma Hasr Shalom. Perhaps I should go with the majority. Maybe Hashem wants me to go with the majority. I see that 130,000 students, which is the majority, would Shevna want to give up. Maybe we should surrender also. Yeshayahu Hanavi came and said to him, Lo Tomrun, Kesher L'cho Asher Yomar, Ha'am Hazeh Kasher, Kesher Yishayim Hu, Kilomer Kesher Yishayim Hu, Kesher Yishayim, Enu Min Minyan. Yeshayahu came and said to him, when you have a group of evildoers, they're not counted. This is the famous story everyone heard that once a Christian came to Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, I believe, and told him, by the Jews, you have a concept. The majority, go with the majority. Whatever the majority opinion is, that's what you go with. He says, look in the world. You have a majority of Christians and very few Jews. You should become Christian. That's what the halacha would be. You go according to the majority. And Rav Soloveitchik said, we only go according to Rov, according to majority, when we have a safek, when you're not sure what the halacha is. But if you're sure what the halacha is, then you don't go with the majority. Same thing here. The Yeshaya Navi is telling Chizkiah, you're worried about following the majority. We don't follow the majority because they're evil people. They're not considered the majority. They're not even counted. So therefore, don't be worried. You don't have to give up to the Sanhedrin. But now, Sanhedrin thinks he's going to be king, and he wants to make his mark known. Now, you're not going to live forever, but you're going to die forever, right? So, halach l'chtav lo kever b'kivrei Beit David. He went and he started to make himself a kever amongst the kivarim of King David's line. Ban Aviva Amar Lo Yishayahu came to him while he was doing this and said to him, Ma lecha po, what do you have here? Umi lecha po, and who do you have here? Ki chatzavta lecha po kaver, that you're trying to make a kever for you amongst the royal kivarim. Your plan will not succeed. You're not going to become king. He thought that he didn't give up to Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin was going to make him a vassal king. That's what he thought, at least. But that's not what's going to happen. That's what Yeshaya was telling him. According to the Steinsaltz, they're saying they found the kever that he started to make, and there was an inscription on it that said, "Here is the kever of Shebna. His name is Shebna Yahu, and that's the way the Navi calls him." And he writes, that doesn't say the whole name Shebna Yahu on the inscription. It's missing Shebna. It got crossed out. It says Yahu, and it says that I'm buried here. My mother is buried here. There's no gold. There's no silver. Whoever opens up this burial chamber is going to be cursed. They say that they found it. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But that's what they're saying. It would work out with the story based on what we have in here. Anyway, Yeshayahu then tells him, Hashem Hashem will make your wandering like the wandering of a man. Amarav, tiltu de gavra kashe miditita. Meaning you're gonna have to wander like a man, not like a woman, because when a woman is wandering around, people feel bad for her and they help her out. When a man is wandering, people really don't care. Whatever, he's a man, he can deal with it. Then it says, and you'll wrap around. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, that he got sarat. It says over here, you'll wrap around. And it's written over there by the Mitzvah that he'll wrap up to his lips. So we see that he got sarat as well. Then Yeshayahu said, Kanopi tzunechat tzunefar kadur el eretz rachavat yadayim. God will encircle you as a hat, as a wall, to a wide open land. Tana was torn and brighter. Hu bikesh kilon bet adonai v'pikach ne'efach kevado lekolon. He wanted to shame his master, therefore he was turned into shame. What happened? Shebna went to his 130,000 students to leave Jerusalem and to surrender to Sanhedrin. When Shebna had left, Ata Gabriel acharei l'rasha be'apeh meshrate. As soon as Shebna walked out of the gates, and his students were trying to come out, Gabriel Hamalach came and shut the gate and didn't let it open anymore. So now Shebna is outside Jerusalem, and the rest of the people, all his followers, are inside Jerusalem, unable to get out. So Amar Lehu, the Amar Le, so now they bring him to Sanhedrin, and they saying, where is your people? You said you have the majority. Where are they? Amar, he said to them, Hadrubi. They backed out. Just me now. Amar Le, Sanhedrin's men said to him, Imken achuchei kamechat mechaychach. They said to him that you're making a joke out of us. You tell us you have a majority, but you don't have no majority. What do? They took his heels and they made a hole in them. They cut a hole in his heels. And then they attached strings from the tails of their horses to his heels. And then they dragged him over thorns and thistles. He was punished very severely, probably died from that. Amar Rabbi Elazar, how did it happen? In Gadol, Talmid Chacham, Rosh Yeshiva, he ended up going against Chizkiyahu. It ended up being so bad. How did it happen? The Navi called him Rasha. Devna Bal Hana Haya. He was somebody who seeked pleasures. As it says, Ktiv Hacha, Lech Bo El HaTochen Hazeh, Ktivatam Odi Lo Sochenet. So basically, it took him that he was a pleasure seeker, and that's why the Torah really didn't stick with him. The Maharsha explains that the Pirkei Avot tell us that you want to learn Torah, you have to limit pleasures. Eat a little bit, drink a little bit. You cannot be so much involved in pleasures. Because you're involved too much in pleasures, the Torah cannot take effect in you. Even though he was Rosh Yeshiva, knew everything, yet the Torah did not have influence on him because he was a pleasure seeker. Now Rashi adds on, Bal Hana'at Kimashma'o, like we explained, V'yesh Omrim Mishkav Zachar, that he was Mishkav Zachar. He was being with other men, sleeping with other men, and this is another. Wait, Rashi seems to be saying this is another considered Bal Hana, which means is, a lot of times they're pleasure seekers. They've done one thing, they've been with women, now they want to try to be with men, and they try to be with this, and they try to be with that. And this was the type of guy he was. He was a Bal Hana. And he tried other pleasures, seeking more pleasures and more pleasures, whatever pleasure he thinks he can find, that's what he did. And because of that, because he was a pleasure seeker, all these problems happened to him. Okay, Bez Hashem, next week we'll continue from over here. Okay? Thank you. I'm going to shut off the recording.